Welcome to the Cup of Joe Show, where we explore the journey of recovery from alcohol and drug addiction. One story, one conversation, and one step at a time. I'm your host, Joe, creating a safe space for honest discussions about the challenges and triumphs of addiction and alcoholism. In each episode, we'll hear inspiring stories and uncover tools that make healing possible. Sobriety is not a one-size-fits-all journey, and you don't have to face it alone. Recovery is possible, and it's worth it. Thank you for joining the Cup of Joe Show. Now let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Cup of Joe Show. I'm your host, of course, Joe. And today we are joined by Lad H. Lad's been sober since August 12th, 2021, a date made even more meaningful as it's also the birthday of both his oldest and youngest children. Lad's home group is Friends of Bill W. in LaGrange, Georgia, where he stays active in his recovery. He's a devoted husband and proud father of four to Hooper, Whit, Carter, and Lillian. The family's golden retriever, Lucy, adds a little extra joy and loyalty to the mix. Outside the rooms, Lad enjoys the outdoors, whether it's fishing, hunting, or spending time on a golf course. We are really grateful to have him join us today and share his experience, strength, and hope. Lad, how are you doing, sir?
And I'm doing great, other than the fact that I forgot that I was supposed to do this today. You know?
Listen, it's all good. It's all good. We are here, and I appreciate your willingness to do it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So tell me, what was it like growing up, Lad?
It was pretty uncomfortable growing up, inside of, this mind that I carry around. But it's funny. I've got a brother, and both of us ended up, becoming alcoholic, and or born. I don't know. It just it was weird because it was a loving home. Grew up in Eufaula, Alabama, and pretty normal stuff, man. Playing a lot of sports in the yard and staying outside, and no real trouble at home, and so that was but it just I can remember pretty vividly, which is weird, that it was like second grade or something. We had a Easter egg like painting contest at school, and I remember like the 5 best eggs got called up to the front of the classroom. I remember standing in front of those people and just being so self-consumed and worried, and just, it was like almost the start of like this feeling that I carried through, until I like to say until I got sober, but really until I found a good solution to that, and drinking and doing drugs. So pretty a normal upbringing, but a very uncomfortable feeling, during those years.
I can definitely relate to that. That uncomfortable feeling. Did you have any? Was anybody in your family? Like what was your? I guess what my. Let me ask the question right. Like, what was your thoughts about alcohol or drugs? Like, were you around any of that growing up, or?
No, man, it's not. I think I saw my parents drink a little bit, but it wasn't. No, it just wasn't like a big thing in our house growing up. So never was around it a whole lot, and so no, it didn't play like a major part in my childhood.
So when was the first time you felt the effects of alcohol or drugs? I don't know which one you.
Yeah. So it kind of is. I've heard people tell their story and talk about the first time they drink, having this just aha moment, or man, this is the deal. And it wasn't that way for me initially. I think I had my first drink when I was in 7th grade, and really didn't do that again until high school. And got pretty drunk one time in ninth grade on a golf course, threw up all night, and then sort of just was like, yeah, it wasn't something that drove me at that point. But I think it was my, smoked some weed, kind of during high school. But at some point, I think my senior year, it was, it became like, I don't even know how to say it, man. It was like we were at this party at kind of the end of the year, and I didn't have much going on. And I remember having that feeling of drinking with a bunch of people in a situation where I'm usually really, really uncomfortable, and that going away, and going, oh, okay. Maybe this is something I should do more often, and that started a trend that really didn't stop until I got sober.
It was kind of like me in high school. I called alcohol the great equalizer.
Yeah.
It was. I understand. Were there any consequences, from drinking or anything early on, or?
No, it's something else I want to add. Just the because it talks about in the big book, about alcohol was a symptom, and I just had a I don't say a tendency, and nobody taught me to do this, but lying and stuff like that came really easily to me, just very young, to get out of trouble, or really when there was no reason to even lie, So doing things, and I guess a disregard for, the consequences. I'll say this. I always somehow internally felt like the rules that applied to everybody else just didn't quite apply to me, I don't park. I'll park wherever I want to park, ticket or no ticket. I'll go whatever speed that I want to go, and I don't have to pay the speeding tickets. I might go to class. I might not go to class. But consequences related to drinking started pretty early on. Going to jail a lot. It's funny. Every time that happened, I'd say, yeah, I went, but look, that cop had it out for me, or this is the reason why, and so I could at those times, and really all the way through my drinking and using drug career, I never would look at a time where there were some severe consequences and say, maybe I shouldn't have done that. It was always kind of like, well, these circumstances were like this, so, and if they weren't, it would have been okay. So I could never see that I was the problem.
So, what did you do after high school, lad?
Yeah. So, I played a lot of sports in high school, and I was thinking about this, recently. I think that covered up, a lot of the internal stuff, because I succeeded in those things, and playing sports, and ended up playing baseball in college, and so it almost felt like that self-centeredness, or really like it's just I can't stop thinking about myself all the time, sort of would go away when I would achieve something, and it was almost like that I kept some of that at bay. But went to college, and you end up graduating after about 6 years, and ended up the girl I was seeing, we ended up having a child, and got married, and moved where I currently live now, in LaGrange, Georgia. So and started working for a local bank here in town.
So was your drinking at this, did it start progressing, or?
Yeah. Well, what was weird is I remember, always finding the crowd wherever I went, that I thought drank like I drank. And, but it was funny during my senior year of college, a couple of guys, this is after the baseball season was over, came up to me and said, "Man, we were thinking about having an intervention, with you." And I'm like, well, y'all were there with me, man. Like, what? I don't see the problem, but there was always a difference in the way I think that that I drank from the people that were around me. Um, but once getting married and um, having kids and working, yeah, I still drank, you know, alcoholically, but it was my thing then. It wasn't. It was kind of a weird thing. I always imagined somebody alcoholic just, you hear people saying, "Hey, people that live under a bridge or on Skid Row or something like that." But I just thought somebody's life that was, just out of control. Maybe they didn't have a job, bouncing in between jobs, were broke, and that just didn't fit the picture of kind of what it looked like, with me. Now some of those things happened later on to me, but at first, it seemed to quiet it down. But eventually, it was so it switched at some point to, I say it switched, it just I added opiates into the mix, and that's when behaviors they're probably abnormal became really, really, they magnified, I guess, a lot. And and that was in my late 20s is when I started. One day I guess I was sitting at my work, didn't have any opiates, and started sweating. And I don't know where I'd seen it or heard it, but I thought, man, this may be withdrawals. And I went and got some, took them, and it went away. And I did know at that point in time I was in trouble. I knew I was in trouble because I knew how I dealt with things like that. I was not going to tell anybody, like it just, I was going to keep this to myself, and sort of ride it out. So that's when things got, started sort of spiraling out of control.
Did anyone mention anything to you? I know at this point is anybody seeing the change in behavior, I guess?
Yeah. It started little things. Hey, I don't come to work on time, um, uh, spending money excessively, having to hide all these things from people, running up a lot of debt at any place I could borrow money, credit cards, all that stuff, spending money taking money from my family that we needed, and having to come up with every excuse under the sun as to why I took it. And so, yeah, after a couple of years of that, my wife knew that there was something going on. And one day I'd changed jobs, and I had all these bills sent to my previous job so I could pay them, and they all got sent to the house. And that's when she found out that I had run up a large sum of money, that I owed. And she called me at work, and I told her I'm addicted to opiates. I can't stop doing this. So
What what happened after that, lad? Like what was the
yeah,
next?
so I kind of was under the assumption at that point, well, look, I got on them, and people wean off of them. I think, I started Googling the stuff and like, what do I do? And, I went to the doctor and got some Suboxone for a little while. That only lasted for maybe 6 months. And then I had the idea, I'll buy them, give them to my wife. She'll give me 2 a day. That lasted maybe 2 or 3 days. But I would let her give them to me. Then I was buying them off the street. And, I'd changed jobs, and I came home one day, um, I was at work actually, and I was in the back bathroom, and I was, you know, smoking some fentanyl off of, you know, off some tinfoil, and I walk out, and my mom's standing in the middle of working the car business in the middle of the showroom floor, and I just thought, man, that's odd. She doesn't live here. Why is she here? And we went home, and there was a group of people there, and my wife said, hey, you know, either you can go to rehab or you need to leave. And you know, I don't I don't really know, you know, at that point in time why I did this, but I went and packed a bag and, you know, started living in a motel in town. And, yeah, we ended up getting a divorce about probably a year later. Um, so yeah, and, you know, at that point, living by myself, you know, good things don't happen when you're living in a hotel, man. I don't know what else to say. It was bad. And, you know, people that were, well, there was a lot of bad stuff going on over there. And, but eventually I met a girl, and, you know, I could fake it for a little while with somebody, and, we ended up getting married, and I think she knew rather quickly, there was a problem, you know. And I'll say this one also, you know, and a lot of speed and Adderall were then introduced to the picture too. So it was a lot of vodka, you know, a lot of any hard opiate I could get, and amphetamines. And you know, that's when things really started to unravel as far as my behavior, the consequences of my behavior. You know, getting fired from, I'd never been fired, and I think I got fired from 3 times in about 8 months, twice from the same job. Um, and it's funny, I would always get the same response from an employer, right? We love you, we do, but you just can't work here anymore. Um, I was stealing money from every job that I worked for. Should have gone to prison for that. Um, and then pretty much lived in a permanent psychosis for the next probably 5 years. And you know, it's I was about to say it's hard to say, but it's really not. You know, my wife, who I'm still married to, at that point in time, the emotional abuse that I put her through, you know, it's nobody should have to deal with that. So, um, yeah, and that's what happened, and what it was like, and what I was like, and until, you know, that I lost that last job, and you know, I'd run out of options. And as far as really you can translate into that, I'd run out of money. And you know, my brother had gotten sober about a year before. Went to a treatment center called Mar in Atlanta, and so I went and did that. Left my, you know, wife and um, little girl, and my son Carter, in a house that I hadn't paid a mortgage on in 6 months. That was getting ready to foreclose on, and I went to rehab, and started my first trip into sobriety.
So what was I mean, running out of money and options. I mean, is that what you would call your turning point, or was there like a specific feeling you had that?
You know, at that time it was like I knew it was coming to an end. I just had like an inner feeling, hey, this is running its course, and it almost felt like a big spiral. You know, like I knew something was going to happen, and I guess maybe you could call it a turning point. I don't really know. I know that I went to treatment and stayed there for about 9 months. House got foreclosed on. They moved into a rental house. I came home without a job, and I was about 10 months sober. I'll say this, 10 months, and I hadn't drank or used drugs. And I was going to AA meetings. And anyway, I going to a lot of meetings, came home, and ended up calling my brother and saying, "Hey, look, I think I want to kill myself. I don't want to do this anymore. Like I'm sober, and it's worse than it almost was before. Like the situation are not as bad, but internally I just was, it was very painful and uncomfortable. And I was looking for some sympathy, and he laughed at me. And he said, either we got a couple options. You could do that. You could, go back to drinking and using drugs, or you could go ask somebody to sponsor you and have them take you through the steps. And so I did that night. It was funny how that worked. I asked a guy, and he said, I'm moving and taking this new job, but I've got 8 weeks where I don't have to work. I didn't have a car, and he came and picked me up from the house every day, and we worked the steps. And I had a spiritual awakening, and life was beautiful during the amends process. I'm not saying this is this has to happen. It happened to me. Making amends to a former employer, and offered me a job, and life was great, man. And I this is sort of, I don't know what you call it, but I can say this: there were things being said in those meetings, and stuff all in the book. This is what happens when you stop doing this. This was my experience when I've seen other people do this. And, slowly but surely work was very important, and so it was like, hey, instead of going to 5 meetings, I'll go to 3. Instead of going to 3, I'll go to 2, 1 every 2 weeks. And also was the guy, this is what the book says, and it's my experience confirms. I don't keep myself sober, right? Like I lose the choice, of whether I can use drugs or not, use alcohol or not. And, I didn't have a mental defense at the time, right? Of whether I was going to do it or wasn't going to do it. And there came a time when, I was on the way to work, and I skipped that exit, and I went straight to the doctor's office and got a prescription for hydrocodone. And it was off. That was after about 3 years of sobriety, a little more than 3 years. And it picked up almost immediately where it left off, within probably a month. I was buying dope off the street again, starting to use speed again. And that went on for another 2 years after that.
So I call that default mode.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of what we know, and if we're not, I know for me, when I wasn't working a program, I would go into default mode, every couple of weeks though, lad. You got 3 years. You kind of knew, you kind of, at least you got a good taste of it, so,
Right.
So what changed or got you back in the rooms?
Yeah. So and I think this is the, as I was thinking, like, hey, this is, it was very obvious, right? Like, being exposed to Alcoholics Anonymous was, it says we have to drop the word blame from our speech. And so it was crystal clear those last couple months. This is because I got back in that mode, man, of like, I'm doing a good job at work. They're messing with me, they leave me alone. People are blaming me for things I haven't done. And maybe that was true, and maybe it wasn't, but I continued to put myself in these situations over and over and over again. And so at some point, I was exhausted. I don't know another word to say it. And we talk about a lot of times in recovery about surrender. And, I've come to my experience was that happened to me versus me making a conscious decision to surrender. I was exhausted. I was tired. The line and all that stuff. And I just, told my wife one day, I can't do this anymore. I've got to go back. I got to go to treatment or something. I can't live this way anymore. And so I walked into work and told my boss the same thing. Hey, look, I don't know what you can do, but I'm done. I can't live this way anymore. And they had picked up, pretty quickly on. He would have these talks with me every couple months. Hey, you're getting out there, man. Just, can you reel it back in for us a little bit? And mine would be, at first it was like, oh, I'm not doing that, but then it kind of was like, yeah, I can reel it back in. And, the reeling it back in was just shorter and shorter. Really, I didn't know if I was going to reel it in for 2 weeks or a day or a month. It became erratic, And so, that happened to me, and I knew at that point, and it's a beautiful thing. I came to that place where I knew that there was nothing I could do, nothing I personally could do to keep myself sober. I knew it. Nobody had to tell me. And I went to treatment up in Asheville, and ended up calling a guy. It's funny, he lives in my neighborhood, and he's my sponsor. And but I'd seen him in meetings, and always kind of respected what he said and what he was showing me in recovery. And I just said, look, man, I thought I knew how to stay sober. It's pretty obvious I don't. You tell me what to do. And he started giving me assignments, and I started doing them. Because I really internally thought or felt really this is the only thing left. This only chance that I have or my family has for a decent life. And so yeah, that's kind of how this time around started.
So what was early recovery like, this time? Like, what was different?
Well, I somehow, some way, these things that he was telling, my sponsor was telling me, became really important to me. My job let me come back to work, and I went and sat down with him and just said, hey, look, if I'm going to continue to work here, this is what I need. And they were gracious enough to give me the time to go to a meeting every day during lunch, take a little extra time at lunch. And just sort of setting some, hey, this is how my life has to be right now, and so that happened, and it kind of changed into, I guess, to answer your question. So I was I was meeting up with my sponsor every day, and I remember it being pretty damn uncomfortable for about 3 months. Just the withdrawals were so. I only stayed in treatment maybe, and I'm not advising this, but this was my experience. Somehow I knew I was supposed to be there for 2 months, and after maybe 3 weeks, I just said, "Look, guys, I know this is not what you guys advise, but I knew the only healing that I could really get at this point. I could only learn so much in recovery or in a treatment center. I felt like the healing was going to be in AA through the steps. And so I came back home and had a couple weeks off and dove into those, met with him every day and went to a bunch of meetings. And I remember a couple months in, thinking, well, hopefully it'll work, and I'm not drinking, I'm not using drugs. But I was riding on the road a couple minutes out, and I looked up at the clouds and the sun and this like awareness, energy piece. I don't know what you call it. It was something that I was familiar to me from last time. And I thought, oh shit, here it is. This is great. Thank you, God. And finished working the steps. And man, I was, I don't even know how to say this, but I felt like I got free pretty quick. And, I guess to all the things I was aware of at that moment, it's funny how recovery goes. The further I go along, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing this shit too. Let me talk to my sponsor about that. I'm gambling some bonus checks away up at the gas station. I probably don't. Let me talk to somebody about this, So it was uncomfortable for a while, but I can say this, and it's been my experience. When I get busy living this way of life, and with you guys, my life starts to settle down. And I found out too, when everything on the inside starts to settle down, everything around me starts to settle down as well. And that's what I found from work to home, with relationships. So I believe when it says in the book that spiritual principles will solve all my problems. I'm not saying that I don't have things that might not go my way. But today I have, if somebody to talk to them, some sort of tool or solution that you guys will suggest, or maybe I've used in the past that seems to work.
So I love what you said about how, when everything on the inside settles down, the outside, our outsides start to settle too. How did you, how did you rebuild trust with your family? And I know your wife's been kind of around during this, your addiction.
I don't, it's a hard question to answer. I can tell you what I did. And that was, some of my sponsor says this all the time. He says, what does surrender look like? Getting a sponsor and doing what he says to do. That's what surrender looks like. And, so I was just doing a lot of stuff that you guys were suggesting. And I was encountering relationships and conversations with my wife, with people at work that, honestly, I didn't really know how to handle, because these feelings would come up. And, I was bouncing stuff off of him and others around me all the time. So I don't know that, I did the actions. And I would say this, I've been able to, my whole life, talk myself out of situations or trouble and manipulate. And but I think the manipulation part with her was done. She wasn't listening to anything that I was saying. She was watching what I was doing. And I think slowly, but surely that got better. I was going to work. I was where I said that I was going to be, and started showing up on time to things I was supposed to show up on time for. Because I guess you guys told me that stuff was important. I never knew that was important. I came and went as I pleased. I mean, you know what I mean? And, people would get mad. I would always, it was always like I was in conflict with everybody around me, because I was going to do what I wanted to do, and had no regard for anybody else. For the most part, it was like, if my brain and my thoughts told me this is what to do, I just followed that, and So yeah, things have gotten much better, and in that regard. But I don't know that. I guess I did with my actions build trust.
So you mentioned some of the tools. What are some of your favorite tools that you use, lad?
Well, it's funny. So it's funny. I've been like an underachiever slash. How many times I've been around people that are just starting, and you hear like, oh man, you got so much potential. It's like shit, man. I'm not, it's so I've been that guy where I'm just halfway do everything. If I could slide by with 10% effort or 50, whatever was the bare minimum, I was going to do that. And it's funny that I'm the guy that wanted to come in and now become an overachiever in recovery. And it's probably one of those things. I want you to like me, and I want to be perceived in a certain light. So it was like. I was bound and determined. After 6 months, I'm like, if I feel like this, if I just do like so much more, I'm going to feel double this. And then in 5 years, I mean, who knows, And so, I'm still capable of doing this, but I've certainly done it in the past of trying to do AA or recovery perfectly. And, that brings in its own set of problems, Um, but the basic stuff, we had a guy when I was about 6 months sober, moved down from Fayetteville, Georgia. Um, I think he's got 34 years, and just a guy that I met and immediately was like, dude, I really want what that guy has, so we have a men's book study. It's not AA. It's just a group of guys that we study the book. It's not an AA meeting, but every Monday night. And he said something really early on: when you stay in the basics, you don't have to go back to the basics. And I was like, oh shit, that makes sense. So, this I've kind of stumbled along and met people at retreats. We do, the Atlanta Men's Workshop twice a year. And we do the Heavy Hitters Retreat up in the same place at Rock Eagle in January. And sort of getting things from people along the way, is so the basic stuff it talks about. And well, I'll say this: basic stuff I was told early on is go to meetings. My sponsor was really big on calling alcoholics, so I thought, well, I'll do that a lot. And I was making 8, 9, 10 phone calls a day to people for a year, 2 years. Building a lot of relationships and meeting these people out of town or at retreats, getting their numbers and actually calling them, and found out, man, I know a lot of people in recovery from all over the place, man. It's pretty cool. Because I'm a person, that basic problem of self-centeredness is I can't stop thinking about me. And when I'm thinking about me, man, I cannot think about you, So self-centeredness is the problems that have to become God-centered, other-centered. And then working the steps. When I started getting around people who were practicing, the 10th step, and because if you read those couple pages, there's a lot of stuff in them in a lot of directions. And, waking up early and asking for for God to direct my thinking. Spending some time reading some literature, spiritual literature, and then, sitting down for, 30 minutes in the morning and getting quiet, and doing some meditation. And then, I found out too, when I talked to somebody really early on in the day, that was just something that was, I don't know why it came, it just did, to talk to somebody on the way to work, reach out to people, ask them how they're doing. And then practicing this stuff throughout the day, being kind, being loving and kind and courteous to people, as a practice, roll up to the drive-through or talking to the person at the restaurant or gas station, ask them how they're doing and smiling at them. Those are not natural things to me, you know. So starting to do that stuff. And then when I'm encountering situations that I've never encountered, you're running this stuff by people, you know, throughout the day, making a phone call. And so, yeah, like pausing, you know, I didn't know how to do that. And sometimes I still have trouble doing it, you know. But what's weird, like today, hadn't been really angry. I mean, really, really worked up in about 6 months. And it happened today. And I was on the way to have a talk with somebody at work, and I was praying on the way, you know, help me to seek to love, comfort, and understand, like repeating it. And I still got pissed when I got there. And I leave, and, you know, this guy, one of our guys that go to our book study, ends up, you know, my phone starts going off. He's coaching this travel ball thing with a group of college kids. And he's been going for a couple of weeks, and you know, he's relatively new. He's been sober for about 6 months. He calls me, man, and I'm like, oh shit. Pick up the phone, talk to him, ask him how he's doing, and like it's gone. You know, magically that feeling went away, and I was like, it's cool because I feel like I didn't do that. You know, that happened to me. It was like how it was. I don't know. You know, I think maybe saying the prayer on the way up there. That I don't know, but it's like, you know, when I plug into this power, and I'm asking for guidance and direction, these things seem to happen. So.
You just gave a great running list for someone new in recovery. You know, I mean, that was pretty cool. So thank you for that, lad.
You're welcome.
So what are some of the best things sobriety has brought into your life?
Dude, that's I can talk about. You know, you're going to get me going on this. Like I have looked for external things to fix my internal condition my entire life. You know, I have done that, and we can break it down with you know, food, women, you know, alcohol and drugs, you know, cars, houses, new pair of shoes, 10 new shirts, you know, it doesn't matter. Like I'll look for that ease and comfort any way I can get it. And, but not being aware that was happening. So there has been cool things and you know, some job opportunities that have been like given to me, but, you know, shit, even in that, like I've asked for this, I asked God for 2 years, like guide me, show me what I'm supposed to do with this work situation. I have no clue. You do it. And I remember meeting a guy at a retreat, and he was in the same line of work that I was. And he just looked across, he had like 10 years, and he goes, I just want to let you know, like, God's going to take care of this. You probably don't believe that right now, but like you'll see at some point in the future, I don't know when, like something will happen. Well, I get that something to happen and give me a week and I'm bitching about the new thing. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, this is scary. I don't know these people. I'm freaking out. And but again, like there's tools for that stuff. So like all these, there's been some cool stuff, but there's something on the other end of that. But the most important thing, I'm not a person that feels naturally. I'm never grateful for anything. I really felt like everything that I have acquired or obtained or had or any sort of God-given ability that I've been given was just, that was mine. Like that's the way it was supposed to be. You know, I was entitled to that somehow. Never thankful about anything. And I was, you know, I was pretty, first 2 years, I would tell my sponsor that, like, man, I do feel good, but I don't, people talk about gratitude in a meeting and like, I get it. And he said, well, you know, gratitude is also an action word. Like we show our gratitude by showing up for meetings, by answering the phone, by making phone calls, by prayer and meditation, by trying to practice this way of life. But it's not until probably the last 6 months, like the greatest gift is waking up in the morning and looking around and going, damn, like I shouldn't be here. right? This is a gift. Look at like this life consciousness, like just being here now is like a gift, and starting to be grateful for little tiny things that have been granted or given to me that I certainly didn't earn, and going like, thank you, like God, thank you for what has happened. I don't, yeah, I don't know another way to say it, but that's, yeah.
That's a pretty good way to say it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Um, so what would you say to somebody who might be listening, who feels hopeless or beyond help?
What I would say is that's a great place to be. That's, I don't know another way. And I'm sure maybe there are other ways. I hadn't experienced another way, but to come to that place in life where losing hope in myself was the only way to hope. I just remember feeling that exact same way. And I remember feeling for a long time, there's really no use in trying. I know my track record. I know how I behave. I know what I'll do. I'll always take the easy way out, you know, and that knowingness of like, you know, this is going to be my life forever. I'm going to continue to hurt people and drive people away, and feel this pressure. And there's only had one solution for it ever, only one solution, and that was to get loaded again, and again and again and again. But I think whether it's you know, walking in somewhere where there are other people like me, wherever that may be, you know, because I don't think any of these 12-step programs have a monopoly on recovery or spirituality. There's this a way, it's not the only way. It's the way I got sober. But you know, to go find a person who has found a solution, you know, to this problem, and say, what did you do? Just tell me what you did, you know. Um, and if I reached that point, which when I did, when I lost hope in myself, that was, you know, it's only through weakness that we find strength, that I found strength. And, you know, once my actions, I love that. I love that thing that people say, and I found it to be true. I can't think my way into right living, but I can live my way into right thinking, you know. Once I start moving my feet towards recovery, however that looks, you know, recovery starts to happen to me.
Well, that was beautifully put, by the way. Well, is there anything that we haven't covered that you wanted to talk about?
I don't, man, that's a good question. I don't know. You know, I don't know. Is there anything else you want to ask me about?
No, you know, I think you kind of said it, but I think it's kind of good. Like, what is a typical day in Lad's recovery life look like?
Yeah, a lot of the days that look very similar, and but you know what, man? Even in saying that, the actions look similar, and you know, it's you know, you know, waking up early to kids and making breakfast for them, or just being with them, you know, for 30, 45 minutes while they get ready, whether before their mom takes them to school. She's a school teacher, and you know, and I usually wake up before her and do some spiritual reading. And you know, for anybody looking for recovery, there's the you know, the daily ponderables. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I got turned on to that about a year ago. It's got all the readings of, you know, some cool stuff on there. Spend time reading that, and reading a book now called that somebody suggested to me. It's like a daily meditation book, Stumbling in the Right Direction, which is just jam up awesome. And here you go, man, on the camera. That thing's awesome. I love how I love the way he writes and the way he puts that down on paper. But getting ready and going to do some exercise and talking to an alcoholic. Usually, got one guy that wakes up, talk to him at 6:45 to 7:15, and then coming to work. And I found me an office in here that I can lock the door and turn off the lights and sit in meditation for a while, and then going around at work and greeting people. Just ask them how they're doing. Hey, man, good to see you. How are you doing? And then sort of a daily awareness of walking throughout the day and asking, how can I best serve thee? Thy will be done and not my own. Making a couple phone calls to alcoholics or addicts, and hopefully getting in. I think meeting attendance right now is 4 to 5 a week still, and I would say this: I wake up and ask God to remove this obsession, to keep me, to remove this obsession to drink and do drugs just for today, and thanking Him, at night for keeping me sober throughout the day, and then praying only for the knowledge of His will and the power to carry that out, and spending a little time, in a meeting at home with my wife and hanging out for a little while, and getting it up, and I say that they all look the same. I just mean like what I was shown to do and what I do. But it's funny, my sponsor says this at every damn meeting, man. Like he says, when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. And it's what's funny is I've kind of told him is a lot of times the things I'm looking at are changed for me, through working this program. I start to see things differently, and because man, the same thing every day is pretty repetitive, but when these relationships happen and these friendships happen, and you get into this constant kind of communication with others and start learning about their life, like just it continues to open me up. So
It's a pretty good day, lad.
yeah, man. Yeah.
That's a pretty good day. Well, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your experience, strength, and hope. I can't let you go without our rapid fire questions.
Okay. All right.
If you are ready, sir. No pressure, lad.
I feel pressure, but I'm sure there is no pressure. It's self-made, I'm sure.
Yeah. Friends of my friends, we always go, listen, we're not scorekeepers. We don't keep score, but I'm up 3-0.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, sir. What is your favorite recovery slogan?
Oh, favorite recovery slogan. This is going to be real, I didn't understand the one day at a time concept. I would ask people, what the hell are y'all talking about? And now it starts to make sense. So probably one day at a time.
What is your least favorite recovery slogan?
Meeting makers make it.
What do you think is your sobriety superpower?
The longer I go, the less dependence on me there is. So, taking me out of the picture.
If you could say one thing to your former self, what would it be?
It's okay. It's okay.
What song do you play to lift your spirits when you need a boost?
Ooh, I got a couple, man. I don't know if you've ever heard of Krishna Das, but
Okay.
yeah, he has a song Baba Hanuman, and look, my music choices, all the way from rap to country to classic rock. So I've been jamming like Kenny Chesney "Summertime" because it's been summertime lately, so I've been rocking that one.
Nice. I'm going to have to look up the Christian Adaz. I'm going to have to do that one. If you could grant yourself one wish to help with your recovery, what would it be?
Don't forget. Do not forget what it was like.
What step do you love the most?
The 11th step.
What step do you love the least?
That's a good question. I don't know. Here recently, the ninth step. So a couple of amends that are hanging out there that I've been unwilling to make. So,
what is one of your favorite movies?
Favorite movie of all time has to be The Shawshank Redemption.
Good one. And if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Ooh. I love you.
That'd be pretty cool.
I don't know, man. That's a tough one, dude. I don't know.
I'll take it. I think it's great. Thank you so much, lad, for taking the time tonight. So everybody, a new episode is released every Thursday at noon. You can now visit thecupofjoeshow.net. You can also listen on your favorite podcast apps, Apple, Podbean, Spotify, YouTube, and others. Just search for The Cup of Joe Show. Don't forget the. Please like, follow, subscribe, and share because someone out there needs to hear this today. Thank you all for listening.
It's just a laid-back vibe, baby.
We hope you enjoyed today's Experience, Strength, and Hope. We are so grateful you decided to join us. Please share this episode with someone who might need it. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Remember, no matter where you are in your recovery journey, you are not alone. Reach up and reach out to someone. Please do not suffer in silence. Until next time, let's take it 1 minute, 1 hour, and 1 day at a time. Thanks for listening to The Cup of Joe Show.